They studied in the Amaterasu Mountains. They watched over the Chrono Tiger Rebellion and Excalibur Dynasty. They continuously spar against the Dark Irregulars mercenaries. The ones who possess all this knowledge are none other than Sword Boys! Hello and welcome everyone to the said breakdown of G Title Booster 2 Touken Ranbu Online. Once again, we are greeted by the support of Sword Boys. And today we've got not just a booster set to go over, but also a trial deck. Now the trial deck for Touken Ranbu contains quite a lot of reprints that were basically double rares and just like foils from the previous booster, so there's a lot of reprints, but there are some new cards that are definitely worth going over, and then we'll get into the set. But before that as well, I obviously have to say that there is also a new keyword essentially for Touken Ranbu, and that's Nito Kaigan. And it's essentially how it works is that when a Touken Danchi Uchigatana is being boosted or was boosted by Touken Danchi Wakizachi, and at least one of them has this ability, then you do something else on top. So we'll see a lot of these cards as we're going through the booster set, so there's quite a lot of them, but you know, that's just another keyword that I thought I would get out of the way. Also, I do not actually play Touken Ranbu and I have very little experience with it, but I have asked some friends to tell me about some combos that I should mention, so as I'm going through the cards I'll mention some of those as well as some of cards that might not look too amazing but are actually quite good, so I'll make sure to point those out as I go, but if I make some mistakes I apologize very much. Also, this video does come out one day late, and I'm sorry, the honestly real reason is 1. Just finished exams, 2. Fire Emblem Heroes just happened to come out the day after that. So, and one more thing before we begin, I might, you know, some of these names are quite long, I'm going to do my best to pronounce them, but if I do, please spare me your harsh comments, but I'll do my best. So let's begin with the trial deck, and the first card of which is Higekiri. It has a Shinken Hisatsu skill, so if you don't know Shinken Hisatsu, it's you can check out the previous set breakdown where I introduced what the keyword does. But his skill is an auto. When you drive check a grade 3, you choose one of your rear guards, and that unit and this unit both get plus 5k power. So you attack with him first, and then every grade 3 that you check is essentially a trigger without the trigger skill. So it's just a, well, instead of getting a trigger skill like crit, draw, stand, etc., you get a additional plus 5 from that grade 3. So everybody's copying Little Daikaiser, and you know, they're all enjoying it, so might as well. Next up, we have a foil grade 3 from the trial deck, which is Akashi Kuniyuki. So he has a Vanguard and Rearguard Shinken Hisatsu skill. When he attacks a Vanguard, if he's boosted, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, he gets plus 3k until the end of that battle. Nothing too amazing, but he hits for 14 with a boost that's 21k, so it's kind of just there for that reason, but he's a foil, so I kind of felt I had to talk about him. Next is Koitsunemaru Toku. So there's a lot of units, well, a lot of the units that had forms in the previous Touken Ranbu booster now have Toku forms. So his skill is, when you stride on top of him, you can counterblast 1. If you do, you look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or bottom of your deck, then you draw a card and soul charge 1. So this is what I was referring to in the intro with the whole Amaterasu Mountains. But this card is actually pretty nice. Like, the fact that they just get top deck check is nice, because then if you leave it on top you can draw it, and if not then you're gonna just draw a random and then you're gonna soul charge 1. So you know, it does kind of cost the counter blast, but the soul charge 1 is important because there's so many soul blasts happening in this deck now. Like, you'll see so many units soul blast, it's actually quite silly. Next is a card that when I first read it I was like, this isn't that good, but then when I considered what this clan does I realized it was much better, which is Nagasone Kotetsu. So his skill is, it's a Shinken Hisatsu, so essentially limit break 3. When your other grade 2 or less rearguard attacks, this unit gets plus 3k until end of turn. This might not look too good, you know, it's like, oh what, you're gonna attack with another rearguard and then he's gonna be a 12k attacker? Not really, because with Touken Ranbu they bounce so much, like they'll bounce or they go into soul, then call out something else, so you just keep attacking, so you can do, you know, one column just keeps on attacking while this guy just keeps building up power, and then, you know, you end up having some nice power additions, and then you have strides which restand your field, so then you restand and then you do some more combos, and then this guy just grows into a huge power load, and then if you drop a crit on him then it's gonna be pretty scary. So this unit from the trial deck I feel is quite important, and if you look at the previous competitive wrap-up from December, you'll see that the Touken Ranbu decks that topped actually played him as well, so he's a pretty important unit. Next is the new unit, Fudo Yukimitsu. Nothing too important here, just a basic Perfect Guard, but new card, so I thought I'd mention him. And the last card for the trial deck is Hakata Toshiro. So he's the new starter for the trial deck, but the starters from the last set are still better, or at least one of them is. So his skill is -1, put him in the Soul Act. You can look at top 5 of your deck, search for up to 1 Shinken Hisatsu card, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. If you put a card into your hand, choose a card from your hand and discard it. So it's just a filter and you get a soul, but you lose a counterblast. So this starter is not that good and it looks like Tsuki from Haikyuu. Alright, let's get into the set. Before we do, we should take a look at these beautiful SPs that the set has. So we have the G-Guard, we have one of the grade 1s, we have one of the grade 3s, another grade 1, and one of these strides. These are all the SPs of the set, and the G-Guardian is an AGR as well, so you can even get a GR in SP, so that's definitely quite nice. Now we're gonna go over the cards in terms of rarity. I didn't really group them up in terms of like keywords or anything, or how they combo. I'm just gonna bring up combos as we go. So the first card of which is one of the 2 GRs, which is the G-Guardian Yuzumaru Tsunetsugu. I think it's Yuzumaru, not Juzumaru. It should be Yuzumaru. Anyway, he's a very, very good G-Guard. When you G-Guard with him, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 1. You choose one of your opponent's attacking units, and it gets minus 10k power until end of turn. If you choose a Vanguard with this effect, then he gets a plus 5k shield until end of the battle as well. Really cool because it gives them minus 10k attack until end of turn, so if it's like something that keeps restanding, like the new Victor for example, or like, you know, just anything that restands, it's gonna be nice because that 10k, minus 10k is gonna stay there. So I should have mentioned in the intro that they took a lesson from Zeal as well, but you know, there's only so much references that you can put into a short intro, but this G-Guard is really, really good, but there's not that much interactions for him, he's just really solid. Next, the GR is Mikazuki Minechika Toku. So he is pretty interesting, you know, he's a pretty good stride. So first off, his GB2 is a continuous. If the number of standing mirror guards you have is 5, this unit gets a +1 critical. His other skill is when he attacks on GB3, you can counterblast 1 and discard 2 from your hand. If you do, you stand 5 of your rear guards and they get +3k until end of turn. So what you essentially do is, because of how I understand the timing, is you can attack with your whole field, then attack with him, use his GB3 to stand everything, and then his GB2 procs because it's continuous, and then because you have 5 things standing, then he gets the extra critical as well. So he's pretty solid. It's nice that he just gives a just boom, +3 on everything. So it's pretty nice because that's +6 per row, and an additional 2 attacks as well, if not more, from combos, but definitely a very nice GR. So I think people are generally quite happy with him. Alright, now let's get into the triple rares. The first one of which is Ishikirimaru Toku. So his skill is a Shinken Hisatsu. When he attacks, if all of your units are resting, you can counterblast 1 and flip a G unit face up. If you do until the end of that battle, he gets +10k, and if the number of face-up cards in your G zone is 3 or more, this unit gets +1 critical and +1 drive. So this is what I was referring to with the whole Rebellion and X-Tiger thing. So yeah, they basically just straight up took Chrono Tiger Rebellion and just dropped it on Touken Ranbu. So it's a pretty solid stride. It's a bit sad that you have to have your whole field resting, so you know, you might stand some stuff off of him, but you know, if you're on stand trigger, obviously you're gonna stand stuff, but the extra drive is nice, you know, it's a bit of pressure, but if you get PG'd, and then, you know, you get 4 triggers, like 4 crits, and they all go to waste, and it's a bit sad, but it's still a pretty solid stride. Next is Ichigo Hitofuri Toku. His continuous skill is if you have 2 or more rearguards with Toshiro in their card names, this unit gets +10k. Then if you have 2 or more face-up Ichigo Hitofuri Toku in your G-zone, he also gets a critical. So 36 with a critical, it's pretty nice. And then his other skill is a once per turn act. You can counterblast 1 and choose a face-on card from your G-zone and turn it face up. You choose any number of your rearguards with Toshiro in its card name and they get +6k until end of turn. So it's pretty nice because it can give quite a few buffs. So this is just focused on the Toshiro deck if you choose to build that. So this is a stride for you. Next is one of the, well, kind of like cover cards. Like, at least he's really, like I keep seeing him a lot. And this is Tsurumaru Kuninaga Toku. So his skills an act once per turn, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and persona flip. You choose a grade 3 and grade 2 card from your drop zone and call them separate rearguard circles. And if the number of face-up cards in your G-zone is 2 or more, at the end of that turn, choose 1 unit called with this effect and you may return it to your hand. It's kind of like a Die Earth, except calling from, instead of calling from deck, it calls from drop zone. It's pretty nice. Actually, this is quite solid because it helps you with resources, and you know, it means that like even if things are in your drop zone, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. So this is genuinely a pretty nice stride as well. Next up is this Baraboy Nihongo. He has a GB2. When he attacks, you can counterblast 1 and Persona Flip. If you do it until the end of that battle, he gets plus 3k for each of your standing rearguards, and your opponent cannot guard with Sentinels from their hand. So this is pretty nice because it restricts Sentinels, and there are other cards that can restrict other types of guarding, and you know, the fact that he has plus 3k is quite nice. Normally, if you attack with him first, he'll get a nice little plus 12 off of that, so it's quite nice for a counterblast 1 and Persona Flip. So generally quite okay, you know, it doesn't have a crit, but still quite solid. But there are ways to give crits in this deck as well. Next is Uguisu Marutoku. His skill is a Shinken Hisatsu. When you stride, you can choose 3 of your units and they get plus 3k until end of turn. Basically just drop 3k on 3 units, just like that. It's quite nice. I actually quite like him. His other skill is the kind of keyword searcher. So when you ride him, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1. Look at the top 7. You search from them for up to 1 token Danchitachi from among them, reveal to your opponent, put into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So it's kind of just like one of those, you know, when you ride it, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, look at top 5 for keyword type of thing. But his first skill is definitely quite nice. And the last triple rare is one that I kind of undermined, and then my friends explained to me the kind of utility of it, which is Hotaru Marutoku. His skill is, when his attack hits a Vanguard, it's a Homare ability as well, so Homare, if you don't know, you can check out the previous set breakdown to find out. But his Homare effect is when his attack hits a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 if you do choose one of your rear guards and stand all of your rear guards in the same column as that unit. And that's on GB1, both on Vanguard and rearguard. So it's, you know, when you look at it just bare bones with no interactivity, you might think it's a pretty bad card, but we're gonna go over some of the cards that interact with him as we go through this set. Next up is the other G guard for Touken Ranbu, which is Kosetsu Samonji Toku. So he has a Shinken Hisatsu skill, so Limit Break 3 essentially. When you guard with him, you can soul blast 1. If you do, he gets plus 10k shield. That's it. It's very simple. It doesn't require much. Just Shinken Hisatsu, so you need to be on 3 damage or more. But apart from that, it's just soul blast 1 to guard for 25k. Very solid, and I like that. Next is Iwatoshi Toku. So his skill is an active GB1. You can counterblast 1 to give him the skill until end of turn. On Vanguard and Rearguard Circle, this unit battles the unit you attacked and all of your opponent's units in the same column in one attack. So you can either attack the whole left column in one attack, the whole middle column in one attack, or the whole right column in one attack. It's quite weird because then, you know, instead of attacking all of front row like it's usually been doing, it attacks like the back rows as well, which is cool because, you know, the back rows are usually the ones that have little power, so if you attack their starter, they're gonna have to overguard if they want to keep that. So generally quite nice. It's locked under GB1 just to kind of balance things out, but it's a very nice effect. Next up is one of the pretty nice grade 3s in this set, which is Shokudaikiri Mitsutada Toku. So when you stride him, you choose up to 1 card from your hand and call it to your rearguard circle, and the unit called with this effect gets plus 5000 until end of turn. Then you choose one of your units with a Homare ability, and it gets plus 5000 until end of turn. So because of how timing works, if you stride into a Homare, and then you can use the second part of this skill to give that new Homare stride the plus 5k, but when we bring back Hotaru Marutoku, you know, he needs to hit to do the restanding stuff, but if you give him a whopping, you know, plus 10, then he's going to be a 21k that if it hits, it restands, and there's still something else we can do with Hotaru Marutoku, but this grade 3 does help. Also, thank you to Toyo from my Discord for pointing all these combos out. Alright, so let's continue with the double rares. The next one is the Legion, so I'll introduce both immediately. First is Jirotachi Toku, and the other one is Tarotachi Toku. So let's talk about Tarotachi Toku first. So they obviously Legion together and they form 22k power. And Tarotachi's skill is a once per turn Shinken Hisatsu. When he attacks a Vanguard, important timing, if he's in Legion, you can counterblast 1 and put 2 cards into your soul from your hand. So not discard 2, so they go to your soul, which is important because this clan is starting to really like its soul blasts. So you put them into your soul. If you do, all your Vanguards get drive -1 until end of turn, but at the end of that battle, you stand all of your Vanguards. So how this works, because you activate this while it's attacking, it's not gonna, you know, it's gonna lose the drive check immediately. So you're gonna hit with 1 drive check for the first attack, it restands, and then it's gonna attack with 1 drive check again. So you still just get 2 drive checks, but it's nice because, you know, you get the 2 attacks, so it's, you know, still more for your opponent to guard in the end. And the fact that you put the cards to soul instead of drop zone is very, very nice. Now, Jirotachi Toku has a once per turn Shinken Hisatsu. When he attacks a Vanguard, if he's in Legion, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 2. So those So those 2 that you just put in the soul immediately go out. If you do, you choose up to 4 units in your front row, and they get plus 5k until end of turn. So when you attack with this Legion, you're proccing a restand, and you're giving plus 5k to both of the Legion Grade 3s and to your front or rear guard. So it's very nice, and don't forget that both abilities do activate because they're both working on Vanguard Circle. Next we have Izumi no Kami Kanesada Toku. So he's the first card of which that has the new keyword Nito Kaigan. So he has a Vanguard and Rearguard Circle ability. When he's boosted by a Touken Danshi Wakizachi, he gets plus 4k until end of that battle. So he's 13k plus whatever the boost is. But there are obviously units that pair up with this. Next, he has the other skill that when you ride him or call him, you can take a card from your hand and put it into your soul. Again, very nice. If you do, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, search for up to 1 Touken Danshi Wakizachi from among them, call to a rearguard circle in the same column as this unit, and shuffle your deck. So quite nice. Obviously, it's not a 100% chance that you'll get it, but if you build your deck around it, then there's a higher chance. But it's nice that it's not on GB1, so even you can do this early game, so it's quite nice. So one of the other units that pairs up with that grade 2 quite well is Horikawa Kunihiro Toku. So he also has Nito Kaigan on GB1. When he boosts a Touken Danshi Uchigatana, the boosted unit gets plus 3k until the end of that battle, and if that unit has the Nito Kaigan ability, this unit gets plus 3k until the end of that battle. So it's quite nice because, you know, he gives 3k to the other one and he gets 3k himself. So if I'm not wrong, this column hits for 26, which is quite nice. Next is another grade 2 named Hizamaru. He has a Shinken Hisatsu continuous skill. During your turn, this unit gets plus 2k, and once per turn GB2, when your drive check reveals a grade 3 card, you can stand this unit. Combos pretty well with the trial deck grade 3, which, you know, lets you stand a unit when you drive check a grade 3, so you can stand this guy's booster, and then he stands automatically. Sadly, it's only once per turn, but it's still quite nice. And the final double rare is Bonoyoshi Sadamune. His skill, well, he's a perfect guard that can only guard the Vanguard, so it's kind of a G Sentinel type of thing. And his skill is when you guard with him, you can count +1, soul +1. If you do, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a trigger, you put it into your hand. If it isn't, you put it on the bottom of the deck and countercharge 1. I don't really like him because obviously, like, you know, revealing a trigger is like, you know, if it's heal, then like maybe that's okay. But, you know, it's on your opponent's turn, so if it's a heal and you're, you know, you're kind of getting yourself out of a 6 damage heal is a bit but at the same time, you know, getting a heal is like you get a G guard, so it's a bit okay. And if you don't, then I mean you just get, you know, then you just soul blasted 1, which is, you know, still something, but I guess it's an okay perfect guard, but this might just be my inexperience of Touken Ranbu coming in as well. Alright, let's get on to the rares, hopefully try to go through these a bit faster. So the first one is Tonbo Kiritoku. He has an Act GB1 Shingen Hisatsu. You can count +2, choose one of your Vanguards until end of turn. That unit and this unit get this skill. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, until end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards from hand to Guardian Circle. Quite nice because it not only limits it on him, because, you know, it's a rearguard skill, but it also limits it on your Vanguard, so that's going to help a lot because, you know, you already have some guard restricting strides, so this is only going to add to that, so it's generally a pretty nice grade 3. Next is Shisho Toku. His Shinken Hisatsu is when he attacks a Vanguard, you can count +1. If you do, he gets plus 3k until the end of that battle, and at the end of the battle, if he didn't hit, you can draw a card. His other skills are continuous. This unit cannot be chosen by the effects of your opponent's cards. So, this card is, I quite like it. It's 10k grade 3, which is very sad, but it also kind of works, although you just need to make sure you don't ride him, in the sense that, you know, you can just attack with him alone without a boost, and, you know, get him up to 13k. The opponent either has to take that so you don't draw a card, and like, it's pretty dumb for an opponent to take a 13k attack, or they have to drop a 5k shield, you know, or they have to drop a 5k shield, which they might have been saving for something else, or if they don't have a 5k shield and a 10k shield, just, you know, to let it so that it doesn't hit, but then you get a card off of it. So it's generally a pretty nice card. You know, the 10k is a bit sad, but at the same time, like I said, it kind of works together to be quite alright. And don't forget that a lot of stuff in Touken Ranbu does buff units, so dropping 3k, 5k on this guy is pretty easy as well. Next is Okurikara Toku. He's another unit with Nito Kaigan, so it's on Vanguard Circle and Rearguard Circle. When this unit is boosted by Touken Danshi Wakizachi, you can soul blast 1, if you do, you countercharge 1. That's it. So it's quite nice. You trade a soul for a face-up counterblast. His other skill is a Shinken Hisatsu. When he attacks the Vanguard, you can count +1. If you do, he gets plus 2k. So it's essentially just to make him an 11k attacker if you haven't buffed him already. So it's only really in the cases where you're missing that 2k, but I don't really see this effect being used all that much. Next is Doudanuki Masakuni Toku. Every time you hear me slow down, that means I've edited out a few tries of me trying to pronounce the names in one go. So he has a Nito Kaigan effect both on Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When he's boosted by a Wakizachi, until end of turn he gets plus 2k, so 11k and then plus the boost. And he gets the Homare ability. When his attack hits a Vanguard, you can get plus 1 to draw a card. So pretty cool, you know, it's just a bit more of the Nito Kaigan stuff. Next is Nakigitsuna Toku. He's a grade 2. When his attack hits a Vanguard, it's a Homare ability. You can combo 1 and put him in the Soul. If you do, you Soul Charge 1, choose up to 1 card from hand and call it to Rearguard Circle. If you call, draw a card. This card is like, I don't know if it's me just being blind or if this card is genuinely really amazing. Like, I just find it so good because it gives you Soul, sure it eats up a Counterblast, but it gives you then another Soul. It lets you call a card from hand, meaning you can do the combos, and you know, that one trial deck card is suddenly building up in power, and you draw a card, so you're not really losing anything from your hand, even though you just called something. So it's generally a very, very nice grade 2, so I'm very happy with this one. Next is Kashu Kiyomitsu Toku. He also has a Nito Kaigan on GB1. At the end of the battle that he was boosted by a Wakizachi, you can pay the cost, which is Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. If you do, you stun him and gets plus 4k. So what you can do, because he says when he was boosted, you can attack with this, boosted by 7k, 14 on a 9k rear guard, so that asks for a 10k guard, and then his ability activates from being boosted, not from attacking something, so you can activate that, restand him, so he's an 11k, and then you can poke the Vanguard so your opponent has to drop a 5k shield. So it's nice little, you know, this also combos once again with that new grade 2 from the trial deck, so it's a very nice card that, like, at first I was like, I misread this at first, I was like, it was like when he boosts, like, oh no, when he was boosted, but it's not that bad because, you know, obviously you also give a lot of buffs, so you don't always have to just, you know, swing for the rear guards, you always have buffs on him, so it's going to be more than just 11, so it's generally a nice card. Next is Kasen Kanesada Toku. He has a GB1 Shinken Hisatsu. During your turn he gets plus 2k. That's it. So he's just a 9k attacker or 9k booster, which can be nice in some situations. Next, it's Mutsunokami Yoshiyuki Toku. So this guy also has an SP. First skill is a continuous Shinken Hisatsu. This unit can attack from the back row, which is quite nice. Other skills, GB1, when he attacks a Vanguard, you can pay the cost, which is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. If you do, he gets plus 9k until the end of that battle, which is pretty cool because, you know, it eats up Counterblast and Soul Blast, but, you know, it's a 16k attacker from back row. That also helps, what do you know, that one grade 2 from the trial deck. We keep coming back to that, but it's like, when I kept reading through the cards, I was like, oh yeah, this works with the grade 2 guy. So, you know, this is, I really like this grade 1. I feel like it's quite solid. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Next is Yamanbagiri Kunihiro Toku. He has a GB1 on Rearguard Circle. When he boosts a unit with a Homare ability, you may have this unit gain plus 4k until the end of that battle. If you do at the end of the battle, put this unit into your soul. Again, it's nice. He gains the 6k, but he goes to Soul, and Soul Blast, you know how important that is. I've been explaining it, I've been saying it all the time to the point that it's probably getting annoying, but I think you get it by now. Next is Urashima Kotetsu. He has Nito Kaigan as well. When he boosts a Uchigatana, you can choose a card from your hand and put it into your soul. If you do, you draw a card. Again, this like just on its own like that, it's quite good. It's 6k power, so that's a bit but it's overall quite nice. Other skills in Act, Soul Blast 2 to give him plus 3k. It's not like Soul Blast 2 is quite a lot. You could be using it for other things, but I think it's alright. Next is the Quintet Wall, which is Gokotai Toku. His skill is when you guard with him, when your Vanguard was attacked, you can counterblast 1. If you do, you call the top 5 cards of your deck to Guardian Circle, and if you have a Vanguard with Ichigo Hitofuri in its card name and a rear guard with Toshiro in its card name, you draw a card. So it's just there to support the Toshiro deck, but interesting idea. Next and the last rare is Hachisuka Kotetsu Toku. His skill is, when this unit is called, you can discard a card from your hand on Shingen Hisatsu. If you do, you draw a card and he gets plus 2k. Probably the worst rare of this set, and I hope I'm not just not seeing some combo, but I think this one's generally not that good. And finally, we have the commons. So, first off, we have Yamabushi Kunihiro Toku. His skill is a Shingen Hisatsu on GB1. When he's called, you can counterblast 1. If you do, this unit gets plus 4k and boost. At the end of that turn, put this unit on the bottom of your deck. 15k with boost? I think some decks can take that. It's quite interesting. Next up is Otegine Toku. He has a continuous GB1. During your turn, all your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit cannot intercept, and then for each of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit, he gets plus 1k. So 11k attacker and blocks intercept in the same column, so it's something, but I don't think intercept blockers will be good for a while. Next is Heshikiri Hasebe Toku. He has Homare. When his attack hits the Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, you choose up to 2 of your units and they get plus 4k each until end of turn. Interesting, but I think the Homare deck has better choices, but don't take my word on that too seriously. Next is Yamato no Kami Yasusada Toku. He has a Shinken Hisatsu ability, Act. You can combust 1, until end of turn he gets plus 3k and the Homare skill. When his attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose a card from your drop zone and put it in the bottom of your deck. If you do, you countercharge 1. So it's Homare, but it's nice because 1, you get recycle from drop zone, which it's good in every deck, and 2, you get countercharge. You know, the countercharge is for the one counterbust that you pay to activate this skill, but it's really nice. Like, with Homare comes hit pressure, and with hit pressure means pressuring your opponent's hand out as fast as possible, so you know, I think it's pretty nice. Next is one of the other not so good units, which is Soza Samonji Toku. He's a Shinken Hisatsu on GB1. When he intercepts, he gets plus 15k shield until the end of that battle, but he's 8k power, so nothing too amazing. Next, we have two units that literally have pretty much the same effect. Well, almost. One of their effects is the same. So we have Namazue Toshiro Toku, which has a GB1. When you guard with him, you can combust 1. If you do, Soul Charge 2, which is nice. But then his other skill is at the end of your turn, on rearguard circle, you can Soul Blast 2. If you do, you return him to your hand. So you can call him to boost, and then at the end of your turn, Soul Blast 2 to get him back to hand. And then you can guard with him and combust 1 to Soul Charge 2 to make up for that Soul Blast 2. The other card is Honebami Toshiro Toku. So he also has that at the end of your turn, you can combust 1 to return him to hand from rearguard circle. But his skills also, when you guard with him, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, you countercharge 1. So guarding with both of these, you know, it loses you soul, but at least it doesn't cost you counterblast. And you know, the difference between these two is that Namazue Toshiro Toku uses Soul Blast 2 to come back to hand, while Honebami Toshiro Toku uses Counterblast 1 to come back to hand. Next is Nikari Aoe Toku. His skill is a Shinken Hisatsu once per turn act, counterblast 1, he gets plus 2k until end of turn. Then if you have 5 cards in your damage zone, he gets another 5k. So 9k attacker or booster, which is okay, but it's, you know, it's restricted to 5 cards in damage zone, which is not gonna happen that often. Next, let's move on to the starters. First one of which is Akita Toshiro Toku. He has an act, combust 1 and rest him. If your Vanguard's in Ichigo Hitofuri, you look at top 5 of your deck, search for one Toshiro and discard him from among them, call it to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. So it just gets you a new unit. Next is Sayo Samonji Toku. He has a GB1. You can combust 1, put him in the soul. If you have 5 cards in damage zone, you choose one of your units and gets plus 5k and a crit until end of turn. This is nice because, you know, anything that restands, and there is a restanding, you know, you have your restanding Legion, you have your restanding Stride from the last set, you can give it a crit. You can give rearguards a crit. I kind of like the starter, you know, it's bound to GB1, but it's overall pretty interesting. But I feel the most effective of the new starters is Midare Toshiro Toku, but the best starter arguably is still the one from last set. But this one's effect ties in with the aforementioned Hotaru Marutoku and the grade 3 that we mentioned, which gives Hotaru Marutoku the plus 10k buff. So Midare Toshiro Toku's effect is at the end of battle, this unit boosted a grade 3 or greater unit. If the attack didn't hit, you can combust 1, Soul Blast 1, and put this into your soul, so that you don't actually lose any soul. If you do, you choose one of your rearguards with Hobari ability and stand it. So you stride, and you use that stride skill to give Hotaru Marutoku the plus 10k, and then you use this starter to boost Hotaru Marutoku. If it hits, then you use Hotaru Marutoku's effect to restand the column. If not, then you can use this starter to restand Hotaru Marutoku once again, and it's swinging for 21k again. And then, you know, he can restand himself again because it's choose one of your rearguards, not choose one of your other rearguards. Or, you know, you can restand another column, and, you know, it's quite nice that there's this little combo. And once again, thank you, Toyo, for pointing this one out. And next is the last starter, which is Yagen Toshiro Toku. His ability is a Shinken Hisatsu. When he boosts a unit with Shinken Hisatsu, he can combust 1. If you do, this unit gets plus 4k until the end of that battle. So he's just a 9k booster, and I don't think there's too much interactivity apart from that. And we have 2 more cards and their triggers. First one is Imo no Tsurugi Toku. His skill is an act. You put him into the soul to countercharge 1. This is a draw trigger that countercharges, like, wow. Really, really nice and surprising to see this, but very, very good card. And finally, a card that I'm surprised people weren't really reacting to, but I guess it's just because it's Touken Ranbu, but I feel like some bells need to be ringing, is Aizen Kunitoshi Toku. So let's read this effect together and see if we're seeing any similarities with another card that is quite hated in the current meta. His skill is, at the end of the battle, that your Vanguard with the Homura ability attacked, you can Cross 1. If you do, choose one of your Rigors in the same column as this unit, stand it, and this unit goes to your soul. I wonder where I've seen this before. This is literally the new Flogel, just out there, and it's, you know, it's not locked to GV1, so you can do it as soon as you write grade 3. So the Homura deck is getting this pretty amazing stand trigger, so very, very cool. And this stand trigger is that one strong stand trigger that the clan gets. So that's pretty much it for this Touken Ranbu Online 2 set breakdown. Let me know what you guys thought. I don't play the clan, and it's so rare to see it in tournaments as well, but I have played in tournaments before, and but it's nice to go through the cards because it's cool noticing what they take from other clans. Like, you'll see, cards that are so similar to cards from other clans, and it's nice how everything just kind of drops together and forms some pretty interesting combos. Sadly, a lot of the English player base ignores these because, Touken Ranbu, duh, it's not an actual clan, duh, I don't really care about it, duh, and then they lose to it in tournaments. So that's pretty much it for this set breakdown. Let me know what you guys think, and if you're building Touken Ranbu and which of the decks you're playing, and also let me know if there are any interesting combos that I may have missed out on because of my lack of experience with the clan. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.